Hey guys, today we are going to take a look at this giant rock called Sigiriya. On top of the rock, there are mysterious ancient ruins which have not been fully explained by archaeologists. How did ancient builders create such extraordinary structures on top of a rock which is 660 feet tall? But there's an even more important question. Why did anyone choose to build these structures on an impossible location? All experts agree that construction on such an isolated, inaccessible location means there was something very secretive going on here. Whoever built this clearly did not want anyone to come up easily and find out what is going on. In a previous video, we saw what was on top of the rock. In this video, we are going to see 7 stages of obstacles created by ancient builders to prevent enemies from reaching the top of the rock. Today, when we say Sigiriya, we usually mean this giant rock, but Sigiriya actually stands for the entire ancient complex, which consists of many lines of defense. The very first outermost obstacle you face when entering the Sigiriya complex is the water gardens. This actually looks like a welcoming place and looks beautiful, and archaeologists have named this as water gardens. But the truth is, this entire setup was designed to kill and destroy people who entered without permission. If you look at the ancient plan of Sigiriya, it is almost completely covered on all sides with water, like a fort with a moat. Everything you see in blue is water. In fact, even today, we enter Sigiriya only through bridges to cross over the moat. Of course, outside the moat, there is another line of defense. It is actually the first line of defense, which is the brick wall. If you look at the aerial view of Sigiriya, we realize that an enormous outer wall, a rampart, has been built for protection. I'm not going to explain this wall because I have not studied it fully. Now, going back to the water gardens utilize a very complex ancient hydraulic system. The water gardens can be flooded at will by manipulating the system, and even today, we can flood the water levels and completely stop everyone from entering this place. When you enter Sigiriya complex, you will see a series of tanks, brick walls, and strange constructions which look like a bunch of random structures which don't make any sense. But when I went to the top of the rock and then looked at the bigger picture, it is astounding because the area looks like a circuit board built by the gods. There are 4 tanks, 2 on each side of the walkway, and there are 4 fountains symmetrically built, 2 on each side. These fountains still work today. These fountains are connected to the moat using the principle of gravity and pressure. Water is pushed from the moat into the fountains through underground channels. This will activate the fountains, which will in turn fill the tanks, and these tanks are all interconnected at the base. So there will be uniform water level in all 4 tanks. This snake-like structure was also created to control the movement of water. Water cannot flow straight and will have varying speeds at different points because of the curves. Notice how everything is connected, and this is just a very small part of the water garden. So you can imagine the complexity of the entire system. Now, how did ancient builders flood this entire area? There are massive water tanks created all around Sigiriya complex, and most of them are at an elevated position. There is a large artificial lake to the south of the rock called Vawa, which is connected to the moat and the fountains, and water can be released from it at will. This will cause the moat's water level to rise and cause flooding all around Sigiriya. We can also flood specific areas without affecting the other areas. We can specifically flood this entrance alone. If we push some small obstructions through the conduits to the water fountains, the fountains will not be able to close and will continue to keep releasing water and will flood the entrance. If we explore the ground level, we can see many tanks which collect rainwater, and they have conduits which can be opened for flooding the area. And each tank is different and has some extraordinary feature. Remember, in Sigiriya, ancient builders used nature as a part of their construction. Look at this octagonal tank with 8 sides. 6 sides have been built by placing rocks artificially, but 2 sides are actually made of natural rocks in their original position. Releasing water from these tanks will result in slow and steady flooding, since the speed of the water flow depends on elevation. The higher the tank, the faster the water will flow. So, the most important tanks are located on top of the Sigiriya rock, which are capable of holding enormous amount of water. There are at least 3 large tanks and several smaller ones on the top of the rock. On the rock face, we can see these ancient channels carved for routing the water from the tanks to the ground level. In the center of this large tank, we can see something that is called the stairs to nowhere. There are stairs which come out of the pool and lead to a chair, all cut out in granite, and no one knows why this seat is carved. What is the purpose of this seat? If you sit on the chair, it gives a view of the entire area, and you can spot an army marching hundreds of miles away. And then all you have to do is get in and open the drain to this massive tank, which will act as a signal to open all the other tanks and will flood the entire ground level in a matter of hours. Now, what happens when the entire ground level gets flooded? Human beings are capable of swimming, and if the attacking army is a cavalry, even horses swim very well. So both humans and horses can get through by swimming. However, the movement would be very slow compared to how horsemen can march on the ground. When water floods, crocodiles will emerge to the ground level. If anyone tries to swim, they will be torn apart by crocodiles which live in the moat. This is not just a theory. The crocs actually still live here today, and we see a dozen different signboards warning us not to get into the water because of these crocodiles. Experts have not understood that the entire setup was created as a defense mechanism and have been trying to explain the water gardens as a thing of beauty, but they're scratching their heads about some tanks which make absolutely no sense at all. In random places, ancient builders have created tanks which are only few inches deep. They are very shallow, and their bases have been laid with polished marble and shiny stones. Experts have no idea why these were built, but these were built as defense mechanisms. These shallow tanks will appear as deep pools and confuse the enemies. It is sort of a psychological warfare. The shiny rocks and marble were placed in so they will reflect the sky and appear as though they're deep, and the enemy will definitely stumble because some tanks in this area are really deep and some tanks like these are actually shallow. This is actually clearly explained in the Indian epic Mahabharata, where a palace is built with deep and shallow pools side by side and makes the antagonists tumble and fall. The most interesting correlation is that the epic states that this palace was built by Mayasura, who's the father in law of King Ravana. And Sigiriya is more popularly known as Ravana's palace, and Sri Lankans believe he used Sigiriya as a fort or palace. Now, if enemies successfully passed through the first barrier, which is water, they would encounter something known as rock gardens or boulder gardens. This is the second level of defense system, a stone defense system. Here, ancient builders have made a brilliant blend of natural setting combined with artificial structures. The landscape design in this stage is completely in contrast to the symmetry and geometry of the first stage. The first stage has a lot of symmetrical structures, but this stage is full of random clusters of boulders. And these rocks appear to naturally make way for us. And you can see stairs have been built to go through them. The idea behind this defense system is this: these arches are so narrow that only two people can walk through them at any given time. Even if you had an army of millions, you can only march in pairs through here and you can be killed off easily. There are several pairs of rocks which are set up strategically, and I'm not sure if they were already here naturally or if they were put in place artificially. Ancient builders definitely worked on them. Here you can see the faces have been shaved off. Archaeology reports tell me these are drip ledges to prevent water from touching the rock face. All drip ledges are built to prevent water from touching what's below them. But what is the need to protect the rock face? It does not have a trace of painting, inscriptions, or anything on it. And all these rocks have tool marks on them, which nobody has been able to explain. Is it possible that these huge rocks were actually cut artificially and transported to this place and made into arches? I definitely think so, because otherwise there is no need for tool marks, shavings, and I doubt if such a large number of rocks could occur naturally in pairs for ancient builders to construct stairs through them. Even though archaeologists believe Sigiriya was built during the 5th century, which is about 1,500 years ago, they have examined the rock barriers set up all around this level. There are at least 30 different caves in this area, and excavation done at a cave called Ahagala revealed that people were living here 6,000 years ago. This has baffled experts, and some are of the opinion that Sigiriya is the oldest surviving monument in Sri Lanka, which predates all historical records in the country. Now, there are some rocks which are much more fascinating than these stone arches. All around Sigiriya at high altitudes, there are strange, elongated massive rocks placed at an angle. For example, if we look at this rock, it is at least 30 feet long and 15 feet tall and weighs a minimum of 1,000 tons. Note how it has been placed on a slope using these small cylindrical rocks for balancing. There's no way this is a natural occurrence. Ancient builders definitely cut this rock from the bottom half, lifted it up, and then placed small cylindrical rocks between them. These bizarre setups are called prison rocks because locals imagine that people can be put through this crack and will appear as though they are behind bars. Sigiriya has several prison rocks set up all around it, but the question is, why did ancient builders create these weird structures? Because if enemies came past the water barrier and managed to get through the stone arches, these prison rocks can be easily moved out of their positions with minimal amount of force. All prison rocks are at an elevated level, so these massive rocks will drop from a height and cause other rocks to drop as well, causing an avalanche effect, which will fall on the enemies and completely destroy them. Ancient builders have clearly understood the concept of center of balance. Notice how there are smaller stones placed on top of the rock. This was definitely done to alter its natural center of gravity. These small stones, the angle at which the slope is made, the 30-degree angle at which these cylindrical stones are set up, were all done to make sure that the rock can be easily pushed down with just a little bit of force. In fact, the archaeology department understands that these rocks can be easily pushed down by tourists, which is why they've added these sandbags to make them immovable. Of course, the real question is, how did ancient builders cut such a massive rock and lift more than 1,000 tons? How did they balance it on a slope with these stone bars? And how did they manage to balance these small stones at a 30-degree angle? How did they calculate the center of gravity? Where did they test all these things? Today, it would be impossible to set this up without heavy machinery and precise instruments. And I've spoken only about 2 stages of defense, but as far as I know, I've never seen such an elaborate design created to protect any ancient site. I will talk about the other stages of defense in a different video. I hope you like this video. I am Praveen Mohan. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and also click on the bell button to get all the updates. Please give this video a thumbs up and do share it with your friends. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.